We are so ridiculously back, it's not even funny. How many moons has it been since the Buster Blader was playable? Not only playable, but really good. Finally, there is a deck that works with the Buster Blader, and it is none other than the fan favorite Blue Eyes, which is poetic almost. So effectively, what we're doing today is talking about a Blue Eyes Buster Blader deck that takes advantage of the deck's new heightened ability to consistently put out Mausoleum and search for level 1 light tuners. Specifically, of course, we're talking about the Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. This card effectively is a one-card enabler for the entire Buster Blader line in most decks, kind of. It does need a little bit of help though, not only A, to get it consistently to hand, but B, in order to give it just a little bit of extra gas to make sure we can put up the full lock. And this deck does just that by utilizing two primary combos. One using either Siege or Maiden as a starter to set up a Spirit Dragon as well as the full Buster Blader lock, including the extra deck lock with some follow-up, and the other being a Buster Blader lock protected by Jet Dragon and perhaps even Erratic Seals as well, depending on what you're feeling. And I'll show you those two combos in just a moment so you know what I'm talking about. But effectively, what is it we're trying to accomplish? Well, not only is this deck capable of all of the same ridiculous Blue Eyes nonsense that we covered in our previous video, it's also capable of putting up the full Buster lock. And what is that? For those uninitiated, I'm about to ruin your day. So it's a 3-part lock using the Buster Dragon, the Buster Blader himself, as well as the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. Now, the thing about this deck that I really love is you can, as part of your primary combo, consistently set up the extra deck lock as well as the other parts. So the way this works is it's 3 powerful floodgates baked into one. And by that, I mean you've got the Buster Dragon first and foremost, who will change all of your opponent's monsters on the field into dragons, which against some decks is really detrimental. You know, if you're looking at the likes of Math Mech and such that's running around, it really needs Cypress monsters on board. Buster Dragon kind of cooks them, so that's pretty good. Then you have the Buster Blader, which switches all your opponent's dragons to defense and makes it so opponent's dragons cannot activate their effects. That doesn't apply just on the field. It's dragons your opponent owns, which means cards in their hand as well as their graveyard, which means no bestials or no nothing are happening once this guy hits the field. And the third part then is the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which while equipped onto a Buster Blader is going to lock your opponent out of the extra deck, and this can be equipped onto your Buster Blader as a quick effect by the Buster Dragon. So it's a full cyclical lock. It all feeds into one another, and it all stems from the Buster Whelp, which is now searchable via wishes, via siege, via whatever you want. So honestly, ridiculous buff to the deck. This is the most synergy Buster Blader has ever had with any deck, and I am super here for it. I've been playing it non-stop. I've got a couple of Duelist Cup games actually going to show off after the combos, and I'll go through the deck list in more detail, and I'll tell you why we've chosen some of the ratios we have. I'm sure some of you are curious about the Buster Whelp at 1, but I will explain that at the end of the video. So if you're interested in catching more content like this, make sure you're subscribed to catch it as it comes out, and feel free to like this video if you want to help your boy out just a little bit. But I'm not going to ramble too much at the start. Let's get right into our first combo. Alright, so we're going to start off with the Neo Kaiser Seahorse. This is not as impressive, I think, as the other combo. It's a little bit more sort of thematic, but this one has a few different possibilities at the end, and at the very least, it sets up the full Buster Lock with the protection of Jet Dragon or the Erratic Seals, or both, depending on how you play your cards. Let's focus on playing our cards, though, for the combo itself. Just like any other Neo Seahorse combo, it starts with the normal summon, then you're going to link this guy off into the Spirit, just like we did for the previous video about Blue Eyes. The first couple of steps are pretty much the exact same. So we're going to summon out Spirit with Eyes of Blue here. Spirit as well as our Kaiser are both going to activate. The Kaiser is going to be sending a Blue Eyes or Blue Eyes related card from deck to grave. We are going to be pitching the Maiden of White, of course, and the Spirit with Eyes of Blue is going to be adding the Mausoleum to the hand. So now we're going to activate the Mausoleum. We're going to need to get a Blue Eyes into the graveyard. So we're going to activate Mausoleum now, targeting our Spirit with Eyes of Blue. I'm going to pitch the one out of my hand so it simulates a more realistic situation. Obviously, you don't want Blue Eyes in hand. So we're going to send that one to grave just to simulate us not having drawn it. Now we're going to activate the Spirit with Eyes of Blue, which is going to bring back the Blue Eyes that we just sent to the graveyard. Just like that. And its revival is going to trigger the effect of Maiden of White to also bring herself back from the graveyard. So we're going to summon this right here, and we're going to immediately use the Maiden of White's effect to send her back to the graveyard to play True Light onto our field. So now we're going to activate True Light, which will allow us to grab Wishes for Eyes of Blue. We're going to grab Wishes here. Activating the Wishes, we're going to discard a card, and we're going to grab Roar of the Eyes of Blue, and we're going to grab Buster Whelp of the Destruction Sword. Now, normally you would like to grab Sage here, but this guy, because we're already on to our second normal summon, we have to grab the Whelp because we want to set up the Buster lock, right? So we're going to normal summon the Whelp. Activating the Whelp's effect, we're going to search our deck for Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman, which really is kind of the crux of the deck right here. I've talked about this card a million times, but I'll talk more about it at the end. Well, you're going to see what it does here in just a second anyway. So now we're in a position where we got Whelp and we've got Blue Eyes White Dragon. So we've got a couple of different options from here. What I personally do is I'm going to activate Roar of the Blue Eyed Dragons right now. Roar of the Blue Eyed Dragons is going to summon the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon out to the field, which is, I think, an integral part of this particular version of the combo. Because here, you've got a few plays. Number one, if you want the extra deck lock, you have to go into the Protector Whelp. So that's the thing. So if you want the extra deck lock, you're going to go Protector Whelp. If you don't mind not having the extra deck lock and you're happy with just the Monster Zone lock, then you can go into Spirit Dragon here. But personally, I'm going to go for the Protector Whelp. I'm going to use the Buster Whelp of the Destruction Sword, and I'm going to use the original Blue Eyes White Dragon. I'm going to keep Jet Dragon on the field, and I'm going to go into the Protector Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. This is going to allow me to search my deck, or sorry, send from my deck to the graveyard the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So off to the graveyard it goes. You can also, if you happen to open the Buster Blader, you can also special summon the Buster Blader directly from hand, which may be something worth considering in certain hands. But we're going to pretend, of course, that we don't have the Buster Blader in hand. And we're going to set this. And this board doesn't look like a lot. You can also, from this point, go into Seals if you wish. Hieratic Seal for an additional bounce or interruption is absolutely an option, and if I were playing something like Magnamut into my deck, I probably would consider it, but with the Hieratic Seal, I would have to give up my Jet Dragon, and this card presents so much value to this combo that I kind of don't want to get it off the field, because this card, effectively, while it's face up, any other card on my field cannot be destroyed by card effects, which means if you're playing against the likes of Tempai, if you're playing against the likes of anything that's going to use big board-breaking field wipe cards, they're not going to be able to use that to clear out your Buster lock. They're going to have at least a couple of them. And Jet Dragon's a recurring resource as well, which is very valuable. So personally, I think the one bounce is just not worth it. I would rather have the Destruction Protection for such a potent effect. And we're going to go into the opponent's turn. I'm going to show you what the potent effect actually is, so you get a good vibe for it. Main phase 1, you typically actually want to do this in draw phase, but I forgot. So we're going to go Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman here. Prologue activates, we're going to send a Destruction Sword card from our deck to the graveyard, as well as the Buster Blader himself. So any one of those will do. And then you're going to, usually you don't want to chain the Destruction Sword memories, because you want your opponent to go for something like Called By onto your Buster Blader, and then you can chain this to stop the Called By. But of course we're playing against bots, so nobody cares. So we're going to go Buster Sword, Destruction Sword memories as well. And this is going to set up the Buster Blader combo. So now we're going to summon out the Buster Blader himself. We're going to banish any of our dragons as well as our Buster Blader from the graveyard. We're going to summon out the big man himself, the Dragon Destroyer Swordsman. So he's out on the field. Now Prologue is going to cheat out the original Buster Dragon, but it gets destroyed during the end phase of the next turn. And you'll see here right away, our opponent's monster switched to defense, and they actually didn't have any more plays. But we're going to go Buster Dragon here. You chain to target your Buster Blader, and it equips on the extra deck lock from the graveyard. And that's how it works. So now our opponent, they're all dragons, so if they have any type-related strategies that they need to use, I'm thinking Math Make in particular is the first one that always springs to mind, but there is quite a number of them actually that require specific typings on the field. Then you've got the Buster Blader, which is making all their dragons useless, including, of course, the ones you changed to dragons. And then you've got the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, which is locking them out of the extra deck, so they can't go for any sort of fancy plays, linking off into the extra deck to try and find some sort of out or cheat or something to do. Because I guess one of the technical outs for this is if your opponent just has a really big Link monster, or if they have Goddess or something like that in their extra deck, they would be able to use that to potentially out one of the pieces of your combo. This stops that from happening because they can't use the extra deck. And the cherry on top is they can't even destroy anything on our field because of the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. So all in all, this field is pretty damn impactful. You're not talking about a whole billion negates and direct interruptions, but the control and the floodgates that it gives you is amazing. And the protection behind it is very, very effective. So that's the way I personally play the Kaiser combo. You can definitely do it in different ways. You can even just do regular Blue Eyes stuff, of course, if you wanted. But I think this is probably the most effective way of doing it. Don't be afraid of leaving the little link to on the board here. You can use that later on if you want to. Maybe make some changes to the extra deck to make better use of this card during your turn. But for now, that is more than enough. Let's get into the next combo. As we know from the Blue Eyes combo, the Siege and the Maiden combos tend to sort of blend together and become the same thing. So we're going to show this combo off using Siege, but just know the same combo works if you open up with Maiden. So we're going to normal summon the Siege here. Siege then is going to activate its effect to search the deck for the Maiden. We're going to grab that and add it to our hand. Now we're going to activate the Maiden of White's effect. We're going to drop it to the graveyard to play True Light onto our field. We're then going to use the True Light. We're going to grab Wishes for Eyes of Blue from our deck, placing it onto the field, which we will now activate. We're going to pitch a card out of our hand, and we're going to grab a Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons, as well as the Buster Whelp. So the only difference here is if you start out with Maiden, you would be grabbing Siege, and Siege would then be grabbing you the Buster Whelp. But all in all, it all works out to be the same. So we're going to grab these two cards here. Now we're going to go Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. Now we're going to do this before we put up our Spirit with Eyes of Blue, so we don't Dragon Lock ourselves. We're going to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon, and then we're going to bring back the Maiden of White from the graveyard. So out it comes. Excellent. So now we're going to go into the Spirit of Eyes of Blue. We're going to use our Siege for that, of course. Playing the Siege right here, or the Spirit right here, sorry. Spirit's going to activate, searching your deck with the Mausoleum, grabbing our Mausoleum. Now we'll activate the Mausoleum. We're going to normal summon the Buster Whelp of the Destruction Sword in addition to our regular normal summon. We're going to use the Buster Whelp's effect, grab a Prologue, just like before. Now, just like the Blue Eyes combo, we're going to go for Wishes for Eyes of Blue, banishing it from the graveyard, targeting our Blue Eyes White Dragon, equipping on the Neo Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon from our extra deck, and then getting rid of it for the Tyrant Dragon. Now that our Blue Eyes White Dragon's in the graveyard, our Spirit with Eyes of Blue contribute itself to bring back the Blue Eyes White Dragon, just like this. And here with the other, and again, much like the Neo Kaiser version of the combo, you have a choice. If you don't mind not having the extra deck lock, and you're happy with just the Buster Blader and Buster Dragon lock for locking your opponent out of using monster effects, you can at this stage go into a double Spirit Dragon and end with not only your regular Blue Eyes inboard, with like the full power double Spirit Dragon combo, but also having access to the Buster lock for the on-field monsters. What I think is more unique and perhaps even more powerful is going through the Whelp once more. So before we do anything, of course, we're going to go Mausoleum of White. We're going to target the Maiden of White. Maiden of White then is going to activate to bring back a monster from the graveyard. What monster specifically doesn't matter. I think our only target is Siege, but it can be anything at all. Because all we need is additional material for our Buster Whelp. So we're going to go into the Whelp now using Maiden and Siege, just like that. Out it comes. Then the Whelp is going to activate. We're going to pitch the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword to the graveyard. Again, if you're in a position to where you have Buster Blader in hand, it opens up a couple of doors and is actually quite powerful. Having this guy in hand seems like a brick, but if you have literally any gas, he becomes an extender, which is pretty awesome. But no, we're going to pretend we don't have him in hand. And now we're going to go into our our Spirit Dragon. Right here. And we'll finish off by playing Seals. So this combo, you'll notice, is a lot stronger. We've got, of course, our Spirit Dragon for the negate, the graveyard negate, as well as tagging out into the ultimate Spirit Dragon for an additional negate, so 2 negates. You have the seals for a bounce, and it will also summon out the Jet Dragon, which is going to give you field-wide protection. The ultimate Spirit Dragon is going to prevent them from banishing cards from your graveyard, so if they have any plans like Call By your Bestials in response to your Buster Blader traps from grave, you've got an answer. And the and it's also going to prevent them from doing other things with the graveyard, and that's all on top of your Buster Trilock. That's going to be the changing of all of their types, changing of their monsters to defense, and preventing their effects activations, as well as the extra deck lock. So we're going to get into their turn, and we're going to see that in action just a little bit to help you visualize what exactly is going to be happening. Our opponent's going to play like a fucking pussy. We're going to go Heretic Seal here, just to kind of show you where the value is being generated off of this card. So we're going to return a card to hand. It would be one of theirs if they had a face-up card, but let's pretend they did. Heretic Seals, then summoning out the Jet Dragon. Means that we've got field-wide protection from destruction for all of our effects. Then Prologue would also be here. Prologue, being able to send memories in the Buster Blader from deck to graveyard. Chaining, of course, your memories so that you're sort of baiting your opponent into trying to banish cards from your graveyard here off of your Blue-Eye Spirit Dragon. So again, you're just kind of playing in and baiting your opponent into making plays that they don't want to make. You're going to banish a Dragon and a Buster Blader from the graveyard to bring out our Buster Blader himself, the big dog. Then Prologue summons the Buster Dragon, and then the Buster Dragon equips the extra deck lock. Just like that. And now we've got our full Spirit Dragon, we've got Jet Dragon protection, we've bounced the card, we're negating the field, we're blocking the extra deck, we're changing his types, we're doing all of this. We've got all these really powerful passive effects, as well as a few really powerful singular interruptions at any given point. So all in all, this is so much stronger than the other combo, and it really is very difficult to break. Again, you're asking your opponent to break a pretty decent board while having so many restrictions placed upon them. Like, it's tough. And while imperm and such definitely sucks into this, because if they imperm like a Buster Dragon or a Buster Blader, they're negating part of your combo. But not all of it, because this, the extra deck lock comes from the back row, and they have to get through Jet to get to the back row. So no matter what, even if your opponent does have some sort of like field-wide negate, you're still putting some form of pressure on them in the form of your back row. Just worth noting, let's get into some actual gameplay. Alright, now this is going to be a brief demonstration of the deck against Tenpai. Now this guy actually chose to go second, if I remember. They are playing Tenpai, and this is going to be a really remarkable game. So they're going to go for double Perulia, which is fine. It's not Fovalis, it's not Maxi, it's still annoying that he gets to draw cards, but it is whatever. We are going to Ash one of them, so he's not getting double draws, which is something. We're going to normal summon Neo Kaiser Seahorse. Never, ever, ever, ever miss a chance to bait your opponent. We all know Yu-Gi-Oh! Players don't read. Never miss a chance to bait your opponent. We activate Neo Kaiser Seahorse specifically to see if he is Fictvealer or Infinite Permanence, which he did. Paused, didn't want to read my card, and just shotgun the Veiler. Never miss an opportunity. So that's fine. He negates our Kaiser Seahorse. Big deal. We're going to link it up into Spirit with Eyes of Blue, just like we normally do. We're going to go Spirit here, Spirit, and Neo Kaiser Seahorse chain link 2. Our opponent's got 3 cards left in hand. Now we do know that they're going to draw a couple of additional cards from our extra normal summons throughout this turn. We're going to go True Light set Wishes. We're going to activate the Wishes now, which is discard Memories from hand, grabbing Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons, as well as the Buster Whelp of the Destruction Sword. We're going to activate Mausoleum of White. Mausoleum, normal summoning the Buster Whelp in addition to our regular normal summon, grabbing us to Prologue. Spirit with Eyes of Blue going to tribute itself to summon out the Blue Eyes White Dragon. Then the Maiden of White going to activate in the graveyard to summon itself as well. Roar of the Blue Eyed Dragons. Now summoning out the Blue Eyed Jet Dragon because we control the vanilla Blue Eyes White Dragon on field already. We're going to go into the Spirit Dragon to clear up some room. Mausoleum of White targeting the Maiden of White, activating to summon a monster back from the graveyard. Going to summon back the Whelp that we just sent to the grave. Mausoleum of White milling an additional card. Going into a second Spirit Dragon. Now we're going to set Prologue of the Destruction Swordman. Now what is the difference between this board and the last one? Because we opened up with one of 2 cards, either Memories or the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, we were able to pitch one of our bricks to the graveyard. So now, instead of Prologue needing to send Memories, it can instead send the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword. So we get double Spirit Dragon out of this, sending 2, activating Destruction Sword Memories. Now we're not too worried about Call by our Bestials because we have the Spirit Dragons that can tag out into the ultimate Spirit Dragon if needed. This turn is going to get pretty interesting though. We're going to summon out the Buster Blader as we normally do, summoning out the Buster Dragon. They're going to go Forbidden Droplet to try and negate our Buster Blader. We see from the discard that he is playing Tempai, so we know exactly what he's going to be targeting. See, Buster Blader also prevents the activation of dragon effects in graveyard and in the hand. They need to negate this card. So what we're going to do is, because we don't yet technically know what he's going to negate, we chain True Light to the Forbidden Droplet, which basically gives us something that our Buster Dragon can now chain to, so we can quickly equip onto our Buster Blader the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword from the graveyard. So he may be able to use monster effects, but he cannot use his extra deck. So that's one board breaker down. Next up is Harpy's Feather Duster. Now we know that if True Light gets destroyed, it's going to nuke our whole field. So we need a countermeasure to that, and what we're going to do is quite interesting here. We're going to tribute off Blue Eye Spirit Dragon and then the second Blue Eye Spirit Dragon. Then we're going to activate Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman in the graveyard as well. Now, Prologue is going to protect Destruction Sword cards from destruction this turn, specifically the back row Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, Spirit Dragon summoning out the Ultimate Spirit Dragon, as well as the Crimson Dragon. Now, while we can't stop the Harpy's Feather Duster from blowing up our True Light, what we can do is, in response to the True Light, we can chain the Crimson Dragon to target the Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, which will then, on Chain Link 2, special summon out the Stardust Cypher Divine Dragon, which, upon Chain Link 1, will protect our field from destruction, and it is at that point that our opponent can no longer play. We played through all of those board breakers. We showed off every tool that this deck has to play with in what was a pretty remarkable show of resilience. I've got one more replay that's going to be a little bit more typical of your average game. Alright, getting started into our next replay, we're going to start with the Maiden of White here, sending it to the graveyard to play True Light, which survives to blue, then dropping the Blue Eyes Jet Dragon to grab ourselves Roar of the Blue Eye Dragons and Siege of Eyes of Blue, normal summon the Siege, then going to grab us the Whelp because we don't really have anything else worth grabbing. Roar of the Blue Eye Dragons, going to summon the Blue Eyes White Dragon directly from the deck, triggering the Maiden in the graveyard to bring herself back from the graveyard as well. Again, pretty standard combo from here on. We're going to go into the Spirit Grab Mausoleum. We're going to activate the Mausoleum, utilizing its additional normal summon for the Whelp. Whelp then going to activate to search our deck for the Buster Blader. Now, why do I grab the Buster Blader? I don't know if our opponent's going to try some fuck shit here and try to lock us out of anything. For the rest of this combo, we actually don't have any more discards because we've already used the Wishes. So grabbing either the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword or Memories would not have been useful because we don't have discard a way to discard. If we had a way to discard still, like Wishes still in play, we would have been able to drop one of those two cards from hand, making them good searches. But since we don't, this is the only real search left that can be played, because don't forget, we can still special summon this guy from hand if we need to using our Link 2. Now we're going to go into the Tyrant Dragon Blue Spirit of Eyes of Blue, going to summon back the Blue Eyes White Dragon that we just sent to the graveyard. Mausoleum of White, targeting Maiden to send Blue Eyes White Dragon to the graveyard to boost its attack points by 800 by its level. Maiden then going to bring back Siege in response to being targeted. Now we're going to Synchro Summon into the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon, as well as Link summoning into the Protector Whelp. We still need to pitch one of our two sort of key cards or bricks to the graveyard. We're going to pitch the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, bringing back the Blue Eyes White Dragon to now Synchro Summon into a second Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon. So you see from these replays that we're still able to end most of our games with double Spirit Dragon and the full Buster Lock. Again, as much as your one card combos may have to sacrifice some part of this end board to get going, you don't play Yu-Gi-Oh! In a vacuum. You play Yu-Gi-Oh! With a whole deck of cards, 5 cards in your opening hand, and you get to play them however you see fit. We actually even give up an extender here because I didn't want to clog my field with useless cards. So this card actually kept in hand because I didn't want to clog our field. Going into their turn, we're going to go Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. We're going to pitch 2 from deck to grave. We're going to go Destruction Sword Memories, banishing it from the graveyard. These Spirit Dragons make this deck so much less susceptible to Bestials and Call by the Grave. It is actually unreal. We're going to summon it to Buster Blader, summoning it to Buster Dragon, then equipping the Buster Blader with the Dragon Buster Destruction Sword from the graveyard into the main phase and activating Dragonic Diagram. He gets ashed in the diagram, and it is now the scoop phase. That is it. Let's fast forward a little bit. Yeah. Honestly, I was sitting here and I was playing game after game after game. Every game, we're on like a pretty nuts win streak. But it's just going into the game, resolving combo, even through 1 or 2 hand traps, no problem whatsoever. Setting up your board, and the moment you put the Buster Lock on board, scoop. Almost every single game. It is so hard to get a good back and forth duel with this game because they just don't exist. It's that good. If you're able to set up and your opponent isn't able to stop you outright, there's no counterplay. They can't do anything about it. Your board is that good. But anyways, let's get into the deck profile. I wish I could even tell you what a back and forward game with this deck looks like, except we so rarely find ourselves in that position. It's quite difficult to say. Again, the deck is so powerful that the moment you get rolling, you're fucking rolling and ain't no bitch stopping you. So it's really one of those situations where your opponent either has to stop you from playing the game at all, which isn't very fun to watch, so I'm not going to show it, or they can't play the game at all, which is why I didn't have like 4 replays of me just instantly winning. So again, pick the deck up, play it yourself, you'll see what I mean as long as you play it correctly. So what are we looking at here in terms of the deck list? Well, the Blue Eyes core is pretty much the same as our last video. We don't need Master or anything else like that. Not because they're bad cards, but because we're almost always dedicating our additional Surge and Normal Summon to the Buster Whelp. So the Blue Eyes core in this deck is pretty much identical to the way it was in the last video for our Blue Eyes, which is double Blue Eyes White Dragon, triple Siege, triple Maiden, and triple Neo Kaiser Seahorse, all as our primary starter cards. We then have 1 Blue Eyes Jet Dragon. We have 3 copies of Wishes of Eyes of Blue, Roar of the Blue Eyed Dragons at 1, Mausoleum at 1, 1 Majesty of the White Dragons, and 1 True Light. That's pretty much your basic lineup for almost any variant of Blue Eyes. You might, of course, sprinkle in additional cards like a copy of Master, a second Roar, whatever. But this is pretty much like your bare bones bread and butter. And for the Buster cards, we're playing I don't want to say small package, it's only a couple of cards smaller than normal. But we've got the one of Protector Whelp, Buster Whelp of the Destruction Swordsman. This is your starter. The thing about it being a starter, though, is it's not really a good starter for the deck. It's a good starter for the Buster Blader cards, but it's not really a good starter for the entire deck. So rather than have this guy free, I don't really want to see him in my hand a lot because I would rather just have the other Blue Eyes cards in my hand. So I brought him down to 1 to make sure we could keep the deck at a nice round 40 while maintaining a shitload of hand traps. So definitely the 1 Whelp. I haven't had any problems with this card being a 1. Not a single time have I thought to myself, I want this card at more than 1. It has been totally fine. The Dragon Buster Destruction Sword, the extra deck lock, of course you need at least 1 copy. 2 Buster Bladers. I was actually briefly playing this card at 3, which was fine. I think if you're going to play it at 3, you're definitely going to want to adjust your extra deck, maybe with a little level 8 toolbox, maybe throw in like an Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon, which would unironically be a really good shout. You might want to drop a 3rd Spirit for it, but then the 3rd Spirit isn't as good then the Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon isn't as good if you don't have a 3rd Spirit, so then you're going to try and talk me into dropping Trish. Maybe drop Trish and a Spirit of Eyes of Blue. Sure, you could suggest that. So if you wanted to play 3 copies of him, you definitely could, because having him in hand as an extender off of your Protector Whelp is really strong. But I would definitely recommend putting in a little Axel Stardust package in your extra deck, just to take actual advantage of him. Then we got the 1 of Memories, which is your fusion card, and then 3 Prologue of the Destruction Swordsman. Again, one of those cards, you could play this at 1, but given the prevalence of cards like Full Volos, of Maxi, of really powerful cards that may shut your deck down, Prologue gives you the ability to set up at the very least something during your turn, virtually no matter what your opponent does, if you happen to hard open it. So I do think that this card is definitely still worth running at 3. You're never going to resolve more than 1 copy of it. However, having it in hand means that you're significantly less susceptible just to being hand trapped to death. It means that you've virtually always got a pretty powerful play. Type modulation and a field-wide negate skill drain-esque effect is definitely going to win you a lot of games, especially considering there's actually not a small amount of dragon decks running around right now. Tempai and Blue Eyes among the two most popular, but there are other decks, of course, that play dragons. So even the Buster Blader may even stop your opponent from playing a Bestial from hand or something like that. So definitely, at the very least, make sure that you've got something if you happen to open up with it. So it's a good card to see in hand, and of course a good search off of your whelp. Really no harm in playing it at 3. And the rest of the main deck is hand trapped, and that is the way this deck is built, minimizing unnecessary taking up space by that sort of main deck and unnecessary engine cards, and putting a large focus on non-engine, because you want to make sure that you're not playing into a full power opponent's board, right? I mean, Blue Eyes kinda has a couple of good tools for going second, but it's not really at the same time. A Buster Blader definitely doesn't. So you can't really afford to be playing into a full board all of the time. Which is where, again, having so many hand traps comes in. The Dealer, because it's searchable and it's a semi-starter card, has been really, really useful. And Triple Ash Blossom has been great. I dropped Duel for Fawalos because, again, it's better going second, which is where this deck is weakest. So the Fawalos has been really good going second. Triple Ash, double Maxi, all standard stuff. Then we got the double Called By. Not playing Imperm. If you wanted to free up some space, you know, you wanted to drop your prologues down, things like that, to generate some more Imperm space, absolutely could. A lot of people are even dropping Jet. I think Jet is especially powerful in this version because you really, really want to protect your Buster cards. But if you really wanted to, there is a world where you don't play Jet. That is an option. So if you really wanted that extra Imperm space, you could definitely go bap, 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 play it like that. No harm in doing that whatsoever. I just prefer the extra plays that come from playing it this way. But totally up to you. And that's the main deck. Really nothing to write home about. Pretty standard Blue Eye stuff with a Buster Blader sprinkled in, just enough to make it the perfect mix. Into the extra deck, and this is where things are still kind of chopping and changing a wee bit. So in terms of the cards that you need to play, one Buster Blader, of course, one Tyrant Dragon, and one Neo's Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon. They're all for your combos. Buster Dragon, you need it for your combo. You'll need at least 2 Spirit Dragons. You'll need 1 Cypher, 1 Crimson, and 1 Blue Eyes Ultimate Spirit Dragon, at least. At least 1 Spirit with Eyes of Blue, and at least 1 Protector Whelp. Everything else is kind of optional. I really like Seals. Seals is a really powerful fallback play, although, again, to be honest, the more I think about it, I haven't ever really had the fallback on it like that, if you know what I mean. It's not like in Dragon Maids, where if you get Ash Blossom, it's Seals pass. I've never had that problem with this deck. So maybe there is a world where you don't play Spheres, but I personally really like it, so I keep it in here because it's a nice little endboard piece onto our Siege/Maiden combo, and it's a nice fallback plan if you do happen to get fucked up. Double Spirit, I'm moving further and further away from this idea of Double Spirit. Like, it's neat that it's in here at 2. Like, the only real reason I'm playing it at 2 is because of Kaiser Unicorn at this stage, but like, I really, really could see a world where you just drop that to 1. I really like a 3rd Spirit as well. I just like having the extra copy of Spirit to go into when needed. So, yeah, 3 Spirit is definitely nice. And Trish is funny. I really love Trish. I used that a bunch in Pure Blue Eyes. In this version, the extra deck is pretty damn tight. So, I could see a world where you drop the Trish and instead you go for a Stardust package. As you go for Stardust here, these 2, and basically these will be here to take advantage of if you open up with a Buster Blader in hand and you can summon it from the hand off the Protector Whelp, go through an Axel Synchro Stardust Dragon into a, during your opponent's turn, using True Light to bring back a Blue Eyes White Dragon. Blue Eyes White Dragon being summoned brings back the Maiden. Then Axel tags itself out for Stardust, and then you can use its Quick Synchro effect to combine the Blue Eyes and the Maiden to go into a 3rd copy of your Spirit Dragon. So you'll have an additional Spirit Dragon and an additional Stardust Dragon on your end board for that extra protection. So I definitely could see a world where you play it like this. I'm personally a little bit too attached to Trish right now. Just because it's funny, that's literally it. But I think you probably would, in the long run, be better playing the Stardust line. I think it just takes much better advantage of Buster Blader. It just makes him an infinitely better card. Feeling that if you really don't want to play Buster Blader, or the the Stardust line, there is a world where you want to play different Link monsters instead. Perhaps like a Link 3 to take advantage of the Protector Whelp, or maybe even just go in the SP a Little Knight, something like that, so that when you go into the Protector Whelp, you can get it off the field while getting a powerful monster in exchange. So that would be the only other alternative I could think of, but that's kind of boring, so, you know, I'm gonna stick to Stardust all day, every day. Or Trish. Anyways, I could sit and I could ramble on about this deck for hours, but I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I'm going to sign it off right here and allow you to pick up this list and bring it into rank, bring it into the Duelist Cup, bring it into a casual room with friends or family, and you're going to make a lot of people very upset. And I implore you to do so. I also implore you to subscribe if you want to catch more videos exactly like this one, or other stuff that we do here. I haven't really been posting a lot, as you're all very well aware. I'm a busy guy, I've got a lot of shit going on, very, very important shit. So, you know, it is what it is. But if you want to catch more videos when I do eventually upload, make sure you're subscribed to catch it. Like this one to let me know if you enjoyed it or not. And I'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.